Yes, and we are live. Hi guys, and welcome to day 97 of my channel, Kristiaan Hilger, Business, Life and Mindset. I'm so sorry guys, that was actually the wrong intro. So here is another one for you. All right, let's go. So today I have Jason B. Milligan,
Right.
flown in from California.
Yep.
And
Or trained in.
trained in, yes.
Yeah.
So Jason's actually on his honeymoon right now. So congrats, first of all.
Yeah, thank you.
You just got married to your wife, Erica. And they're actually on their honeymoon here in Europe. And
Yep.
you're traveling through some countries, right?
We are, yeah. We started in Denmark. We're in Germany for a while. Now we're in Schweiz.
In der Schweiz, yes. You're in Switzerland here.
Yeah.
And you're going to continue to Zermatt?
Yeah, we're going to go to Zermatt tomorrow, and then we'll go into Italy, and then a little bit of France, and then Spain. Yeah. I want to point out, that says day 97. And it said 90-day challenge, so that's 7 bonus days right there.
Yes, I'm an overachiever,
That's
you know.
right, yeah. I'm noticing that.
Just like Jason. So yeah, I actually just met Jason just yesterday, and he's very inspirational because Jason does a lot of crazy things.
Do I?
Yes, well, I would consider them pretty crazy because you do climbing, canyoneering, extreme hiking. What else? Scuba diving and so on.
A little bit, yeah. What is? I want to know what extreme hiking is. What is extreme hiking?
I would say extreme hiking for me is if you have the risk, I don't know, of dying on trail.
Okay, all right, okay. I guess maybe sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and Jason also has, oopsala, this one to show you, has a podcast, the Go Outside podcast.
Yeah,
right?
I hear that I'm supposed to be doing season 6, but I haven't. I haven't updated this podcast in, was it July 1st, 2020? So almost 2 years, yeah.
Looks like it, huh?
But I did do 104 episodes over 5 years before that, yeah.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah, today I had the chance of listening to the podcast about the John Muir Trail, JMT, and it was extremely inspirational. And I have a lot of questions for you.
Okay, good. I hope I have a lot of answers.
Absolutely. But before we go into the questions, let's just watch a little video about the John Muir Trail that video editor Jason produced in high quality. So guys, stay tuned. absolutely wonderful. Really, really nice video editing. I'm very, very impressed, and this is absolutely great. Like the beauty of this trail must be
Oh yeah, it is
mind blowing, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, my first question was, what makes the John Muir Trail so special?
So there are a lot of things that are really cool about it. So I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. Here in the U.S., John Muir is kind of a pretty well-known conservationist. Started the Sierra, one of the founding members of the Sierra Club, and one of the people who was ultimately responsible for helping create the national park system. So he is highly revered among many groups of people. And so this trail that goes through the Sierra Nevada, which is one of the best mountain ranges in the United States, in the western area, it runs through California. They named a long distance trail after him, and that became the John Muir Trail. And so it's a trail that runs, you can do it different ways. So it runs about 211 miles. The way I did it ended up being about 260 miles. And it goes from Yosemite National Park to Mount Whitney, which is the highest point in the lower 48 states. Or you can go the way I went, which is start there and go north.
Yeah.
And people do it typically over about 2 weeks or so, and I did it over 26 days, so I could just take as much time as I want. And it's just this amazing, gorgeous, high altitude, especially for the United States, high altitude trail that you live on for however long, for a month in this case. And I didn't really see civilization for like almost a month. And yeah, it's amazing. And you meet other people who are on it. And one thing I've told people is the interesting thing when you're on a trail like that is you meet the best version of people.
Yeah.
So when you meet people when they're on the trail, they don't have any of the worries of day-to-day life. You're all doing the same things, and everyone is trying to help each other. And so everybody's giving each other things. Everyone's giving each other advice. And so the version of that person you're meeting is the best version of themselves. And so just all these great people helping each other do this thing that kind of is only special for you, right? Like it's almost maybe a selfish thing to do because it's just a thing you go do for yourself. But I found it very, very important to have done it. And I still think it's one of the best months of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, the podcast is really inspirational. I will put the link down in the description. So check it out, guys. And you actually spoke about the camaraderie among the people, right, on trail. Like I guess if you're hiking for 26 days in these extreme conditions, you probably build a lot of friendships along the way, right? You support others and so on. I heard about sharing food and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I didn't know that was going to be part of what I liked about it so much. Because a lot of times people go to do these sorts of trails because they want seclusion or solitude, and people say that the John Muir Trail is very social, so you're not going to get that. Though you can kind of have as much time alone as you want, but I didn't really anticipate that I was going to meet so many people and build these friendships, and then towards the end of the trail, I think I talk about it in the podcast, as I got closer to the end, I started running more into day hikers. And before that, you would meet people who were on the trail or who were on other like long backpacking trips. And so you'd see each other and you want to talk to each other. So you'd share information and you'd stop and you'd talk. And then I would meet other people who were just day hikers, and it was a little weird. They were like, why is this guy talking to me? They didn't know what the John Muir Trail was. They didn't know why. I was asking them which direction they were going. And then I started to realize I was kind of missing the social aspect at the end. Yeah, I didn't know that was going to be one of the parts I liked so much.
Exactly. And you said 26 days is the prescribed length. Can you also shorten it or
So a lot of people
make it longer?
Yeah, a lot of people do it in 2 weeks. You could do it longer than that. A friend of mine, Alden, who had done it a few years before I did, he did it over 30 days. And there's also tons of, because you're going through the Sierra Nevada, so there are tons of other trails, and there's all sorts of side trails you could do. If you wanted to, you could stay out there for months. And months.
Wow.
Because there's just tons of things to explore. You'd have a hard time figuring out how to get all your food out there, but you could stay there way longer than 26 days if you wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, impressive. Yeah, how do you manage with all the food? I guess for 26 days you can't just carry it on your back, right? You have to resupply, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So there are a lot of different ways you can do it, and for me it worked out. I did 3 resupplies, and they were all handled differently. So one of them, the day before we started, Erica drove me up there, and we drove to a point where I knew I was going to do my first resupply, and I was able to leave it at the trailhead in a bear locker. And so then 8 days later, when I hiked in, it was already there waiting for me. The one I picked up later on the trail, I had to mail. So like before I started the trail, you put it in a big bucket like this, and then you pay like 25, $30 or whatever, and you mail it to a post office, and then you pay a company to bring it in on like this big vehicle that drives through swamps and stuff and up mountainsides, and they bring it to this little ranch in the middle of nowhere, and you pick it up from them and you pay them a fee for that. And then the last one, Erica, my wife, who I'm here with, she was meeting me for the last few days of the trip, like the last week, and so she brought my food with her, and so that resupply I picked up from her. Yeah. But most people do some combination of mailing it or dropping it off or having. You can pay donkeys to hike in your food. There's like a bunch of different things you can do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how about the water? Can you just like drink any water from any lake or a river? Or?
Yes. So you just carry. I carried a filter. Mm-hmm. You can carry light. You can UV devices if you want, but most people carry some sort of filter, and so. A lot of people use a squeeze filter. I used a pump filter, so I would just stop periodically, and I happen to have one with me. I would just pump water into a Camelback, and then carry that until I ran out. And there's lots of water because you're in like subalpine altitudes and sometimes alpine altitudes. So there's lots of lakes and rivers. There were only 2 times where I couldn't find a water source when I needed one. Otherwise, there's usually more water than you needed. Yeah. And it's good water because it's snow melt water.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, okay. So it's good.
Yeah, actually, you said 2 times when you run out of water. I heard the human body can survive 3 days without water. Like, so how long was it until you found water eventually?
Like an hour or 2 or 3 hours. Yeah, like a few hours. Yeah. So I was not that close to death. No.
Yeah, were you ever like really challenged and you would think, okay, I have to give up or I'm actually going to die on this trail?
No, I didn't. I met people who, there were a few times where I met people, and it's very common as you pass somebody, you just start talking to them. And on one day in particular, I passed a guy and it was like, how are you doing or whatever? And he's like, I'm not doing well. So we stop and we talk and he's telling me he's having a hard time. And he was thinking about quitting. Yeah. And we were going opposite directions. So by that point, I'm probably 2/3 of the way, and he's maybe 1/3 of the way. And so I was like, look, it's going to get better, blah, blah, blah. And I started giving him all this. I was like trying to build up his confidence. And afterwards, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm really glad I talked to you. I feel a lot better. But that does happen. I've had it happen on other trails. Yeah. Where you think about it. There was one I did in 2010 called the West Coast Trail in Canada. And we got 4 days of rain, and like bridges were starting to flood, and we couldn't get anything dry, and we were getting like hypothermic at night, and you couldn't start fires, and even like quick dry clothes like these wouldn't dry. Yeah. So we had just been wet for 4 days, and there was one point where you could quit and take a boat out, and we didn't, but there was a part of me that was thinking about it then. But on the John Muir Trail, I think maybe I waited long enough in my time doing these sorts of activities where I never felt like it was too much. There were certainly days where it was hard, but I've done enough stuff to where I kind of recognize my limits and know that I can push through stuff. And so I never thought about quitting. Plus, even when it would get rough and it would be kind of miserable for a little while, like a couple hours later, you would see like the most beautiful thing you had seen all day. And then you knew the next day you were going to see another most beautiful thing you'd ever. And that was every single day for like 26 days.
So you'll always get rewarded for the
effort
you
put did. In. Yeah, like you go over all these passes. So almost every day you go up like thousands of feet and then down thousands of feet. And it would be hard, but every time there would be something a little bit different. And then and then at night, like you'd sleep next to a lake or you'd sleep somewhere deep in the woods Or a lot of times at night I'd come across like does and fawns. Just, yeah, it's just an experience you don't get in the city or at home, and you get to have it every single day, all day long. Like I didn't go in a building for like almost a month. I was just outside.
Yeah, I wonder, like when you're like on a trail all day long, like is there like a designated campsite area where you can camp, or you can just camp anywhere? And what kind of equipment do you need to get around?
So it's a mix. They have a lot of areas where they prefer you camp, but you do have the option in certain places to do dispersed camping, which basically means camping off trail, but within certain rules. So you need to be a certain distance from water sources. You need to be a certain distance from the trail. You want to have a minimal impact, so you don't want to camp. You want to try to camp in spots where people have camped before, or where you're not going to do unnecessary damage. So yes, there are a few times where I camped somewhere, not very many though, actually, where I camped somewhere that you couldn't tell people previously camped. And there's also an app. It used to be called Gut Hook, and it's long distance trails. You can download maps, and it's user generated content, so people can add information. So they can say like, this water source is dried up, or this campsite's no good, or I lost a shoe at this campsite. If you find it, here's my address. And you can bring that on the trail, and you can download the latest updates before you go on trail, and then you can reference it through GPS.
Oh, how funny. Yeah.
And so I could look and be like, oh, there's water in 2 miles, or oh, there are going to be 5 campsites coming up if I just hike 3 more miles or something.
What I was actually wondering when I was listening to your podcast, do you actually use any kind of technical gadgets? Do you have GPS? Do you have cell phone service? Or are you totally cut off?
So it's funny because in the past, I'd never had any sort of electronics except maybe like a GoPro or a camera with me. But for that, I did have a cell phone, and I used that app. It's funny, when I bought it, the Gut Hook app, which is now called Far Out, I was like, I don't think I'm going to use it, but I'll try it. And then I used it all the time. And then I also had something called an InReach. Do you know what a Garmin InReach is?
I know what Garmin is.
Or a Spot. Have you ever heard of it?
Is it like a GPS device?
It's basically a device. Like I would wear mine here. You can see in the video, there's like a little thing with an antenna on it.
Ah, okay.
And it's not a satellite phone. It's kind of in between a satellite phone and a cell phone. So basically what you could do is you could send coordinates. So you could send your GPS coordinates, and then people could even log in on a website and see where you were. And you could send like a certain amount of text messages that would say like, hey, I made it to camp, I'm okay, or I'm in trouble, send a helicopter. So that was like an emergency device I'd have with me. And then I would send Erica messages just so she didn't have to be worried. Yeah.
So you could actually communicate with the outside world.
Yeah.
But in case you hit rock bottom and everything breaks down, you could still survive with physical maps?
Yes. Yeah, and I had physical maps too. Yeah. So I definitely made sure to bring physical maps. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, so I heard something else on your podcast that actually on the John Muir Trail there's also bears.
Oh yeah. Though I didn't run into any
to the hikers.
No, not at all.
No.
So, if you were hiking in Alaska where they have grizzly bears, or if you're hiking further north where they have polar bears, then you have a reason for concern. In California, it's all black bears. So unless they're starving, sick, or if it's a mom with cubs that gets freaked out, usually they don't want to mess with you. And I've never had a run-in with a bear. Every time I've seen a bear, it's always been at least like 100 feet away or something. And it usually just like kind of looks at you, and you look at it, and then you kind of think about, well, what am I going to have to do? And then it goes away. But yeah, it can be a problem. And you have to carry a bear canister, which is basically this big plastic cylinder that's been built so that bears can't open it. And so you have to keep all your food and anything that a bear might think is food. So like anything that has a smell, so like lip balm or toothpaste, deodorant, if you were to bring deodorant, which I didn't bring deodorant. Yeah. But if you were going to have stuff like that, it would all have to be in the bear canister. Because if a bear, and then you leave that like 100 feet away from your campsite or something, and then if a bear finds it, you hope they don't lose it. But usually the bears have messed with them enough that they know they can't get in them, so they see it, they hit it a little bit, and then leave it alone. And go away. Yeah.
Interesting. So how can I imagine this now for our viewers? How can a bear not open it, but a human can open it?
Yeah, I wish I had one. So there are different kinds. The one I have is like I was saying, it's about this big, and it's about this big around. So it's like I think it's just big enough that like a bear can't really get its paws around it well enough.
Yeah.
And then it has this rotating lid that kind of looks like a 45 record, and it has little plastic tabs. And you have to push them, and then it pops it, and you rotate it. And the bear can't. It doesn't have opposable thumbs.
Ah, okay.
So, but what has happened is a bear, and I don't know if that bear's still around. There was a bear in Yellowstone National Park that figured out if it pressed it into a rock and pushed it with its body weight and turned it, it could open them.
No way.
Yeah. So there are some bears that are smart enough. Yeah.
Amazing. So on this whole journey, what were your biggest challenges that you had to overcome?
The biggest challenges, I guess really is just dealing with carrying a heavy pack. So because I brought like
How heavy
a
is your
camera,
pack?
so mine was between 50 and 55 pounds, so like 25 kilos.
Well, that's definitely pretty heavy.
Yeah,
like in the military.
And I would have liked to be lighter, but I was carrying a camera, and then because I was bringing electronics for the first time, I carried like a rechargeable battery and some little solar panels. And then if you're carrying water, every liter of water is like a kilo.
Yeah.
So if you have 3 liters of water, that's 3 kilos of extra weight, right? And then you've got to carry a bear canister, and it kind of weighs a lot. And then you got to carry sometimes 7-8 days of food.
Wow.
So it all kind of added up. Some people do it with like 25 pounds or something, but I wasn't one of those people.
Traveling light.
Yeah, so it's carrying that weight and then carrying it up, because I'm trying to remember the number. The overall altitude gain is some crazy number, like over the whole thing. I want to say like 140,000 feet or something like that.
Wow.
Or is that too much? I don't remember. So
Could be, yeah.
because you hit Mount Whitney, which is 14,500 feet. You hit Forester Pass, which is like 14,000 feet. And then the passes are all like 13,000, 12,000, 14,000, 11,000.
Really?
And you're usually somewhere around 10,000 feet.
So 140,000 feet, yeah?
Something like that. I think
Divided
that's what
by
it is.
26 days, so you
I
would
feel
go
like
up
we
like
should-
5,300 feet per day. It's like 2,000 liters per day. That's
Maybe.
a lot, yeah.
I wish
I mean, on our
I wish
casual
we
hikes-
had Wikipedia up
Yeah.
because I don't remember if that's right.
Yeah,
But
it sounds about right.
it's definitely
Basically,
a
on our
lot.
casual hikes here in Switzerland, maybe we go up like 2,500 or 2,000 feet per day or so, and that's already a lot for us, right? But I guess for the John Muir Trail, you have to train a bit more. And I want to ask you, like, what's the average?
I hope I'm not telling you 140,000 and it's like 40, because it might only be 47,000. Whatever it is, it's a lot.
even that, imagine, even if it's only 47,000, that would actually mean you would go up like every day around 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
This is definitely a lot, because we did like 2,000 feet last Sunday, and I definitely had muscle pain for 2 days.
Yeah. And you've got to
that's
carry that
every
pack
day.
the whole time. Yeah.
And with the pack, that's totally insane.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what is the average John Muir Trail hiker that you come along? What kind of physical shape are they? How do they look like? How do they prepare? What kind of experience do they have?
It really varies. So it would be everything from, like, we met a family they might have been Swiss.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I think they might have been a Swiss family, and I think some of the kids were like 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
And they were awesome because they were almost at the end of the trail too, because they were going the other direction. And I remember the littlest boy, he'd be like, "Hey, look out when you get up here! You're gonna want to turn, because if you miss it," he was giving advice to everybody, and he was just dancing along. Seemed like he was having an awesome time. And at that point, he'd probably hiked, 200 miles or something.
Wow.
With his
Incredible.
family. So anywhere from like 9 years old to there were people on the trail who were like 80 years old. And you've got skinny people, fat people, people that look fit, people that don't look fit. And just because of the way somebody looks doesn't mean, like, you might see somebody be like, that person's going to be great. They're super fit. And then they're not. And then you see somebody like, I don't know about that person. They look kind of chubby and then they do great.
Yeah.
Like you'd totally surprised. You can't just look at people and figure out whether they're going to be good at it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But would you recommend to train for it, or like how can you actually prepare?
I mean, I would
trail?
definitely recommend to train for it. I guess it really depends on where you live. Like if you live somewhere like California or Colorado or Utah or something like that, or Switzerland, it's pretty easy to prepare, right? Because you've got mountains available. So hike a bunch of mountain trails and just kind of increase the weight that you bring with you. I'd maybe do some short backpack trips. That would really be the best advice, is like go do some 3-day, 4-day trips before. And hike up and down stuff as much as you can. And, make sure you know how to sleep outside and put up a tent and live in a tent and cook food. And you don't really need to start a fire. I think people think you need fires, and you barely ever need a fire unless you're in trouble.
So do you have like a gas cooker with you to heat up stuff? Or
So like a little stove, probably it was a little canister about like this, and then a little bitty stove pops on top, and then I would carry a pot that was like about this big, and just put all that together, and try to stay out of the wind, and light it with a lighter or a flint or whatever you want to carry. And a lot of it's dehydrated food, so a lot of it's just boiling water and then rehydrating your food. Then the other nice thing is you just need tons of calories, right? Because you can't eat as many calories as you're going to burn in a day. So when you go shopping before, you look for the crappiest junk food with the highest calories, and then that's what you bring.
Nice.
And so you just get to eat crap for like a month. On one of the days when I met Erica, for me, that would have been probably like day 20 or something. That was when I was really starting to get hungry, and I just couldn't get enough food. And we there's a grill where I met her. It's in Tuolumne Meadow in Yosemite, and there's like access to a road, and there's a grill at a campground where you can order food. It was one of the first times I could order food on the trail, or one of the few times. And I had a hamburger, a cheeseburger, a hot dog, and an ice cream. And then I checked the calorie count. And it was 2,500 calories.
Nice.
And I would have still liked to have eaten more. And that was just lunch. Because you burn like 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day sometimes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good diet, huh? If you...
I think I lost 10 pounds on the trail.
Wow.
Yeah, even,
Amazing.
Trying to eat as much as I could.
Yeah. So what goes on in your mind when you hike for 26 days? Is it are you like euphoric? Are you depressed, lonely sometimes? Are you happy to meet people? Like what are the thoughts that go on?
I mean, you have a lot of time to think. Yeah. So some points I would meet other people, and then we might hike together for days. And so on those points, it's just everybody's talking and joking, and then it's just hanging out with people, right? Other times it might be like listening to music or podcast or just listening to nature. But there's a lot of time to just think about stuff. And so, I would think about all kinds of things, think about my life off the trail, think about things on the trail, think about things from childhood. Like you have a lot of time. It's almost like you get to do therapy, but without a therapist.
Oh, wow.
And you do go through stuff. Like there was one day where like the music I was listening to and what I was seeing and stuff I was thinking about just all kind of overcame me. And then I just started crying on a rock. And I'm not usually a person that cries a whole lot. And then just that day, just all the things were just right. Yeah. And then I felt better, and then I just kept hiking.
It brings it out, huh?
It does. Yeah. You're by yourself. You can be by yourself for a lot of time. And then there's another place called Vermilion Valley Resort, that you can choose to go to. It's called VVR, and people like to go to it if they can. You take a ferry across a lake, and then there's this like camping area, and they let they call people through hikers if they're doing long distance trail end to end. They let through hikers camp there for free. They give you a beer when you come in for free, and then they make all kinds of food you can buy. And then a lot of people congregate there, so then it turns into just like this big party because it'll just be dozens of hikers hanging out together. And so then sometimes you get to have and you can shower there. That was the only time. That was the only time I got to shower. I could wash clothes there. Because I don't know if most people know this, you don't bring a lot of clothes on these things. I think I had like 2 shirts and like 2 underwear, and like maybe 2 pants, and then like a jacket, and you just keep recycling your clothes. And
you just wash everything in water somewhere in the lake, or?
So you might wear the same thing for like 4 days, 5 days, and then you might switch. Like, oh, it'd be nice to have fresh underwear today. Yeah, and then I carry a bucket, and what it is it's like a plastic bucket that collapses down, and then you fill it up with water, and then I would clean it, which just kind of means put it in water and rub it around, and then let it dry in the sun.
So you were talking about your solar panels. Like, how does it work? Can you charge any device with those solar panels?
So I carried a little anchor battery. Actually, I think Erica has it charging right here.
Ah, cool.
So I carried this little battery, and it doesn't weigh a whole lot, and it holds a lot of charge. I forget how many milliamp hours it is, but I would use that. Let me plug it back in so she gets her charge back. I would carry that, and that's what I would charge. And so when I wanted to recharge the phone, if I needed to recharge the inReach, which the inReach barely uses any battery, if I needed to recharge the GoPro battery, then I would recharge it using that. And then I think I used the solar panels like 2 or 3 times. And then I'd plug them into that. And then you could put them on the back of your pack, and when you're hiking in the sun, it does an okay job of recharging them. Not super fast, but fast enough.
Amazing.
And you've got a lot of time when you're out there, so it's not like you have anywhere to be.
Would they even work if the sun is not shining?
Probably a little bit. Probably a little bit, yeah. And you asked about challenges. That's when you get bad weather. That can be one of the challenges. There was a day where we got really bad weather, and
what happened?
Storm came late in the day. A lot of people say in the Sierra Nevada that if you don't see clouds by like 9 in the morning or something, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But it's not true. Because the clouds came at like 1 p.m. or something, and then it just stormed. And I had to go over all these high points, and it was a true thunderstorm. So it was just thunder and lightning the whole time. And it was a little worrisome because I was probably like 12,000 feet or something.
Oh my!
Running between trees while lightning kept going off, and you're just getting soaking wet. And it was a long hiking day, and that was a rough day.
Really, really interesting. So 2 more questions. Mm-hmm. I heard that you got a trail name on trail. Yeah. So this is a thing.
Yeah,
you give
I'm
people
have to
like
explain this. Yeah.
different names when you're hiking. How does it work?
Yeah. So. I don't know who started it when, but people have been doing this forever, it seems, at this point. But on like a lot of the longer trails, they'll give people a trail name, which is just a nickname, usually based on something embarrassing that happens, or just somebody's personality or inside joke. And within a few days, I got the nickname Grits, True Grits, because I was wearing this kind of goofy hat that kind of looked like a cowboy hat. Like an old crappy cowboy hat, and I was carrying grits. I need to explain what grits are to people who don't know what grits are. So in the United States, in the South, there is a type of food that people eat called grits, which I was trying to explain to you earlier. It's basically cornmeal, which is like dried corn that's ground up, and then you make what would be like a porridge out of it. And I thought it'd be a good idea to bring big bags of it because it's basically dehydrated, it's lightweight, and then I could have it for breakfast. And I didn't bring butter. And anyone that grew up eating grits knows that grits without butter are terrible. With butter, they can be really good, but if you try to eat grits without butter and salt, it's just disgusting. And so I think it was like day 4. I was like, oh, let me make some of these grits I've been carrying. And then I realized I'm not going to eat these. And I had a huge bag, and I knew in my resupplies I had a huge bag also. So I kept trying to give it away to everyone. And one of the people that I had met that I hiked with for a few days gave me that nickname because I kept trying to give it away. And I did the next day find a guy who was running out of food.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, do you want some grits?" And he said, "I would love them."
He was super happy.
And I was so happy to get rid of them, and he was so happy to have food.
Yeah, in German we have a saying, and it goes like, when you're actually desperate, yeah, the devil eats flies. So so basically,
Right.
like when you're really desperate, everything tastes great, right?
Yeah.
So,
If you're desperate, you'll eat grits without butter. Yeah.
exactly. So I wonder, do you have like some kind of bucket list or other trails you want to do in the future, or any other crazy extreme sports events?
I would like to eventually, I don't know if it'll happen, but do you know about the Pacific Crest Trail and the Appalachian Trail?
Yeah, yes, I
Or the Continental
heard
Divide
about
trails?
it. Do I know it? I don't know it. Right?
Okay.
I've
so-
not been there, but
so
I don't know of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the John Muir Trail runs across the Sierra Nevada, and it's like 200 plus miles. But the Pacific Crest Trail runs from Canada to Mexico
Yeah.
and on the west coast, and then on the east coast, the Appalachian Trail runs from Maine, which is near Canada, to Georgia, which is one of the southern points of the U.S. on the east coast. And those are each like 2,500, 2,600 miles, something like that. So people do those over like 3 to 6 months.
Wow. Yeah.
I'd like to do one of those eventually. We'll see if I ever make the time for it. There's got to be some other ones. Every once in a while, I'll come across something like was it when COVID started? Was it 2020? Yeah, 2020. We went and did a trail in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? The Wind River Range.
Mhm.
And so we did like a week-long trail through there. There's some stuff up in Washington that I'd love to get up to do. I mean, there's stuff all over the U.S. And then I'd love to do some stuff in other countries as well. Basically, when I see an interesting trail in a book or on a website, I add it to my list, and then I forget what the list is.
So I heard next you're going the direction of the Pyrenees, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and so on, and then you're going to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, there's one trail that you actually might consider. It's El Camino.
Oh yeah. Erica has an uncle and aunt that did that a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely consider that one. Yeah,
'Cause actually, that's one of the trails that I actually would like to do.
it is very different than the John Muir Trail.
Yeah, probably a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've never been on my own like solo hiking for a longer time, and I totally think it would be amazing for me. Just like I don't know, to be like in what's it called, solitude,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just like on the road, and maybe I even cry on the trail like you. And get some crazy revelations out there, and yeah, I think it would be an amazing experience. Not only. Like, I mean, El Camino also is like a trail for pilgrims, right? Because they go to this amazing cathedral in Santiago de Compostela on the west coast of Spain. But also many other people that are not religious actually do this trail because apparently it's super amazing. Yeah? Like, I guess for the average a fit hiker, it's doable.
I mean, people. That's another one. People of all ages do it. Like Erica's aunt and uncle did it, and I think they're both probably later 50s, mid to later 50s. And they did it, I think, in a month or something like that. And you mentioned going solo. That is a good thing to point out. So the John Muir Trail is the first time I ever backpacked solo.
Okay.
So before that, I'd always backpacked with other people. And even the John Muir Trail, how solo you are is kind of up to you because you can meet people and hike with them. And I did that for a little while. And then other times I'd hike by myself for long periods of time. So, yeah, I hadn't done solo before that. And I wasn't sure if I should. And then at the end, I was really glad I did. I would recommend it, yeah. If you can make yourself go do a solo trip.
I will definitely do that. And one last question I have. In the end of your podcast, you mentioned that the trail ended somehow like anticlimatic. Was this like a feeling of disappointment that you thought, okay, there's nobody like cheering for you and giving you like standing ovations that you finished the John Muir Trail?
No,
what was the highlight missing somehow? Or was the whole trail the highlight?
It's not disappointing, but to be honest, so the very end was kind of anticlimactic because you just come to the end of a trail and there's just a sign and you're done, and no one else around knows that you just did anything or cares, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, and now we got to figure out how to get home. But one thing that I did do, though, was different than most people do that trail, is the direction I was going to pass by Half Dome, which is very well-known rock, like 2,500-foot rock face in Yosemite. And there's an easy climbing route, easier than, you know, all the other hard routes that you can do in a single day called Snake Dyke. That's about, I think, about 1,500 feet altogether. And a friend of mine met me on my second to last day, and he carried in all of our climbing gear, and then he and I climbed that route. And so that was kind of my dream come true, is that I wanted that to happen. And so in some ways that was really like the end of the trail for me, and that was very climactic. But yeah, once you got to and people say that if you ever talk to anyone that does a long trail, they almost always say like it's anticlimactic at the end.
Yeah.
Because you've worked and you've done this thing over and over, day and day and day, right? And it's you're 26 days in, and then you walk and you're like, oh, there's the sign. Oh, let's take a picture with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go and then you just hike into Yosemite and eat a pizza and buy a T-shirt and catch a bus back to the car. Yeah.
And what are those thoughts when you see the sign and it's over? Would you say, okay, I'm going to do it again, or never ever, or like?
No, I would definitely do it again. It's interesting because I would meet people that were about to finish. Like when I was early on, I met a mom and a 12-year-old girl who had been hiking for like over a month together, and they were about a day or two away from the end. And I asked them if they were ready to be done, and they said no. And I was ready to be done by the end, but it wasn't because I was tired of doing it. It was because I felt like I had gotten everything I wanted from it already. So I felt like it was the right amount of time, and everything that needed to happen and was going to happen had already happened.
Yeah.
So it felt right for it to be over. So, and then, yeah, I would love to do it again or anything else again. I definitely didn't leave going like, oh, screw this. I don't ever want to do anything like this again.
Amazing. All right. I guess we're at the end. So I heard next you're going canyoneering, right?
Yeah.
Where's it gonna
So
happen?
that'll be when we get to the end of the honeymoon in Barcelona. I have friends who were already planning a trip that are flying in, and then we'll spend a week in that area. There are lots of canyons out there. And so, yeah, we'll be doing that. So we'll be hiking up mountains, rappelling down waterfalls, and swimming through rivers. And
Amazing.
all that stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah, for about a week.
I'm definitely going to watch a lot more of your videos on Vimeo and your podcast. So if people want to find out more about you, where can they reach you? How can they get to know you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing to do is probably just go to the Go Get Outside website if they're interested in the outdoor stuff. That has the podcast, that has some old videos, that has links to a variety of things. It has links to a show that my wife and I did a few years back where we traveled around the United States in a car for 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And then we put a short series together of that. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff to find there, from 104 episodes of a podcast to other types of videos.
Yeah.
And then there's links to like Instagram and anywhere else you can find me. And then I have a bunch of other old websites that are in various levels of disregard.
Well, we'll link the main ones down in the description, so check it out, guys. And I would just say, Jason, thanks so much for sharing your experiences.
Sure. Yeah,
very inspirational.
Yeah. Thanks for talking to me.
And you really inspired me.
All right, good.
Go get outside.
Yeah, go down to Spain now and go hike the Camino.
Amazing. All the best for your honeymoon.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And see you around. Hopefully.
And thanks for letting me sleep in your office. People don't know, Eric and I are sleeping right here, right there.
That's right. Yeah. On my pull-up bed here. All right, guys. So, Jason, thanks so much.
Yep.
See you soon.
Yep. All right.
And see you next time for day 98.